All right, guys. So task 4 is all about taking our clients through what we call a fitness appraisal. Now, fitness appraisal is this fitness testing. So that's what task 4 is all about. It is the idea of, like, firstly, what fitness tests that we would do with the client, and then secondly, actually taking our clients through that type of testing. So the first question that we have to answer, 4.1, is that we have to kind of go through each one of the tests. I have to look at the tools and equipment and resources that we need, some contraindications or precautions with that particular fitness appraisal. We look at signs and symptoms, and then we have to kind of give a brief kind of explanation on how you would instruct that particular test. We'll do a lot of this with our prac. So this is more than just touching on it. So then when you do your prac, you've kind of been exposed to it, so that then you know what you're doing kind of moving forward. But we're just going to quickly run through each one of them, guys. The answer's there for you, so you can just take the answers from these slides and put them in to your answer. So you don't have to think too much in this question. It's more that we just want to show you these are the tests, these are how you do it, these are things that you need to kind of look out for, and kind of get your head around, and you can ask some questions. So the first test, guys, that we've chosen is going to be a fitness test. We've chosen the beep test, a really generic test that has been around for a very long time. We call it a universal test, and the reason why it's a universal test is because there's a lot of data out there to kind of put your clients in certain benchmarks depending on what level they get to, which is a great indicator for not only yourself as a trainer, but also for your clients, so they know where they're at. It's actually a really good shock sometimes when a client does score poorly, because it's evidence that they do need to start exercising more. So that's why we've chosen the beep test. So if you don't know what the beep test is, guys, I know the majority of you would, but it's like a shuttle over 20 meters, and there's you put a recording on, and there's a beep, and every time you hear the beep, you've got to then run 20 meters and then wait for the next beep and run. And over time, that beep gets faster and faster and faster. So you've got less time to recover. And when we're looking at fitness is based on our recovery. So the fitter you are means that the quicker you recover, which means that the longer you can go for. So that's why the beep test is a good test. You don't need a lot of space. You can even do it indoors. And as I said, it's a universal test that there's a lot of data around it, so we can really easily benchmark our clients once we get a result from them. So tools that you need, as I said, like a 20-minute space, you need some speakers, you need a phone so they can hear the beep test, and some cones. So you don't need a lot of equipment either, which is great. And the client can do it at home. They can do it by themselves. They don't have to have you around to do it. So that's why the beep test is a good one. So some contraindications or precautions. So contraindications, guys, it just means, exercise that's going to cause injury or harm. So if the client had a lower body injury, that would be a contraindication. You wouldn't do a beep test with them, because it's not going to do good for them. It's actually going to make things worse. So some contraindication we put down there, like if they've got heart issues, issues running, or any joint pain in their lower body. Signs and symptoms of exercise intolerance, pretty self-explanatory. So whilst they're doing the test, what are some things that we're looking out for? Well, like not making the line is easy. Visible signs of distress, like they can't control their breathing, they're really heavy in the face, they're feeling dizzy, lightheaded, or anything like that would be signs and symptoms. So with methods, guys, it's pretty easy. They're just running 20 meters up and back. They get two chances. If they miss the line, like on their second chance, then they're out. So that's, and then we record their score down. So that's a big test. Any questions on that, guys? Pretty self-explanatory. All good? Yeah, cool. All right. So with blood pressure, guys, back in the old days when you had to learn how to use, like when you're doing blood pressure, like kind of the in your ears kind of thing and put a blood pressure and pump it up with a cuff. But these days, because it's all like you can go out and buy an electric blood pressure machine for like $120. No one really, and they're so much more accurate than what it would be if you were using a stethoscope and stuff like that. So it's really easy to do blood pressure these days, and we'll get a machine and you can have a play around with it when we do our prac. But it's all, you literally just put it on, press a button, and away you go. There's no real contraindications with blood pressure because it's just a test that everyone can do. Probably the only contraindication maybe if they had maybe like an open wound, but that's pretty self-explanatory. You wouldn't put it over an open wound. There's no real signs or symptoms. Yeah, and as methods, guys, we always do it on the left side. The reason why, because it's the side closest to the heart, so that's why you would do it on the left side. But when we go through it, you'll put the cuff on, you'll press a button, and the machine will do most of the work for you. So it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. All right, the sit and reach test. Again, most of you guys have done this before, I would assume, but sit and reach test, you sit down 2 feet in front of you. We're testing out our client's hamstring flexibility. So we're sitting down and we're getting the client to reach out in front of them with their legs straight. And they've got like a little box in front of them where they're trying to push to see how far they can get, a little indicator that's on top of the box. So that's that, and they get 3 attempts to try and get that that indicator as far as close to their, like as far past their toes as they can, if they can get that far. If not, just trying to push it as far as they can. So yeah, with our tools that we need, guys, we just need a sit and reach box. If you don't have one of those, you can. I've seen people make them up with like a box and a ruler, so you could do that as well. But we'll show you what a sit and reach box looks like when we do our prac. So that's that. So contraindications, guys, obviously, if they did have any hamstring injuries, you wouldn't run it, but any lower back injuries or joint problems where they're not ladder bend, then obviously you wouldn't do that movement or do that test. And signs would just be like a really sharp pain when they're leaning forward in their hamstrings or in their lower back. So that would be the signs and symptoms of exercise intolerance. But really straightforward, guys, with the test. As I said, you're sitting down with a client, their legs are straight out, they've got a box in front of them, and they're trying to push the little indicator on top of the box as far forward as they possibly can. So that's that one. Okay, then we got our BMI. And while I'm going through these two, guys, if you want to open up the slides and start copying what we've got on the slides into your answers so it's done, please feel free to do that too. So our BMI test, guys. So our BMI test is, again, a universal test that tests our clients. It's through their height and their weight to give you a score of, is your weight at a healthy or unhealthy level for your height. Now, with our BMI, for clients who are athletes that have a lot of muscle mass, BMI is an irrelevant test because it just doesn't work. A BMI test is more for our general population clients to give them an indication of where they sit. But if you've got a lot of muscle mass, obviously muscle weighs more than fat. So when you do a BMI test on an athlete who has a lot of muscle, it comes up with like ridiculous results that they're like excessively obese when they're fit as a fiddle. So you just got to be careful when you're doing a BMI test that you're doing it on the right clients, because with some clients, a BMI test wouldn't be appropriate like an athlete. But with the BMI test, guys, all we're doing is we're getting their height and the client's weight, and then we're using a calculation to work out their BMI. Now, to be really simple, we have to do a BMI test in our exercise risk assessments. And so in the exercise risk assessments, the Fitness Australia say if you've got a BMI above 30, then that's like unhealthy, and anything below 30 is okay. So So when we're doing this, guys, and we'll actually do this right now on ourselves so that you understand how to do this. I want everyone to grab their phone for me, and we're going to work out your BMI. So just firstly, what you're going to do is just your roughly your height. So if you know your height in centimeters, if you don't, just roughly guess it. So for me, I'm 176 centimeters tall. So what I have to do to get my BMI is I have to turn that into meters. So I do 1.76, and then I'll times that by 2. So I'll do 1.76 times a 1.76, and that will give me an answer. Let me get my phone and I'll work this out. Sweet. So if I'm working it out, I would go 1.76 times 1.76. And then that gives me 3.0976. So then I would write that down. And then what I then have to do is then divide my weight by that number. So I am about 84 kilos. So then I would do 84 divided by 3.0976. And my BMI, it says I'm 27.11, so I'm below 30. So I've got a healthy BMI. So that's how you do your BMI test. So if everyone can just do that now and make sure you understand how to do that, because that is one of the tests that you will do like in your pre-screening form. So I just want to make sure that you understand how to do your BMI. So everyone work out their own BMI. If you're having troubles with it, just say I need help and I can help you with it. And then give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you've done that and then you're all good with it. All right, moving on, guys. Let's go hip to waist ratio. So with this test, we're testing our clients' hips and our also just getting a body tape measure, and we're going to measure around our client's belly button, and we're going to that's our client's waist. That's how we indicate where our client's waist is through doing it through the belly button. And then our client's hips is the biggest part. If we're looking at a client's side on, it's the biggest part of their bum. So where their bum sticks out the most, that's where we classify their hips are. So that's how we indicate where their waist and hip is, and that's how we can always make sure we're testing the same area if we do a retest. So with the hip to waist ratio, once we get those two measurements, we're going to divide the waist measurements by the hip measurement, and that will give us a score. So for a male, the male score has to be below 0.9, and for a female, it has to be below 0.8. So again, we'll do this more when we do our prac, but yeah, that's how you do that. So you would do those measurements and then go from there. So 0.9 is anything below 0.9 as a result for a male is healthy, and anything below 0.8 for a female is healthy. Girth measurements. So like girth measurements and hip to waist measurements go hand in hand. So because we are doing, it's the same thing. So we're girth measurements are just measuring like our client's girth of different areas. So you could do it on every area if you wanted to, like you do on their arms, on their chest, on their waist, on their hips, like the hip to waist ratio, on their legs. So you could do girth measurements everywhere. Girth measurements are really good because sometimes when you're training clients, their scales aren't always the be all and end all when we're losing weight, and sometimes scales don't really show the true indication of a client achieving results, but girth measurements always do. So with me, when I train clients, I'll always put my clients on the scales, don't get me wrong, but doing girth measurements will really help them understand how much their body is changing, because I've seen it before where a client puts on weight, but their girth measurements dramatically go down and they look much better than what they did when they first started training, but they're 2 kilos heavier. So don't always rely on scales to show your clients results, and that's why we would use girth measurements. So that's what girth measurements are good for. Does that make sense, guys? All good? Okay, from there, guys, we've chosen it. The next one's going to be a max push-up test. So again, another fundamental exercise, push-ups. We do push-ups all the time in our training, but just in everyday life. Like, we need to have good upper body strength to be able to perform like everyday movement. So that's why a push-up test is really good. Again, you don't need a lot of equipment to do it. It's a really easy exercise, a really easy test to do that you can easily do one day and then a month later do it again and show your client how much they've improved with their upper body strength. So with a max push-up test, I think the biggest key of this one is just make sure that if the client does the test on their knees, that the next time they do it on their knees. They don't do it on their toes, because it's not going to be a true indication of how much they've improved if they've gone from doing it from their knees the first time, then doing it on their toes their second time, because it's a whole different movement when you're doing a push-up from your knees to your toes. So just making sure that you keep it consistent. If they do it on their toes, when you retest them, they retest on their toes, and vice versa. If they do it on their knees, when you retest them, make sure they do it on their knees as well. So max push-up test, guys, pretty easy. How many push-ups they can do without stopping. All right, so skin folds is the next one. With skin folds, guys, there's a million different ways that you can do it. When I was a PT, I did skin folds over 4 sites. So I would do skin folds over the bicep, the tricep, the iliac crest, which is kind of to the side of the stomach. And then I would do the stomach itself. So they're the 4 sites I do. Here we're talking about 8 sites. So you got for the 8 sites that we're talking about here, those ones I just spoke about. So the tricep, the bicep, the iliac crest, the stomach, and then they do it on the quadricep, the calf, and then you've got your scapula or your subscap, which is a lower part of your back. So they're the 8 sites that you could do it on. But with again, you have to be really careful with the skin fold test. Just make sure you're doing it on the right clients. You're not going to do a skin fold test on a client who weighs 150 kilos, because it's just, it's just not needed. The client knows that obviously they're extremely overweight. So to do a skin fold test to show them that is just unnecessary, and it's quite embarrassing for the client too. So skin fold test is good for clients who have only got that little like 5% left of weight they want to lose. You do a skin fold test with that client. Like athlete clients are really good for that as well, because they can see results in skin fold tests. So just be careful when doing skin fold tests with clients. It's not for everyone, and you got to kind of hand pick the clients that you do it on. But it's a really great way to show results too, because again, with scales, we want to make sure that a client's losing the right weight. They don't want to be losing muscle. They want to be losing fat. So through skin fold testing, we can show that they're losing fat and not losing muscle. All right, let's keep moving on. Oh, that's it. That's all of them. Sweet. All right, guys. So we'll just spend 2 minutes just trying to get all those pasted in, and then we'll move on to the next question. Anyone got any questions on those?
Oh, sweet. Leon, can you do me a solid?
Yeah.
The copy and paste not working. I've been typing them out.
Have you? I'll put it in for you, mate. I'll put it in for you. That's all good, Joshy.
Love you, brother.
Awesome. No worries. Josh, I'll put them in for you at the end, dude. Okay, I won't do it right now. I'll just do it at the end. Just
yeah, sweet.
That's good. Yeah. All right, guys, just give me a thumbs up when you're ready to move on. How we going? We're good? All right, guys, just we're going to move on just because I know we're pushing for time. We only got 15 minutes left of class, so I want to get through this. So with question 4.2, the question asks, clarify for your client the importance and benefits of completing a fitness appraisal in relation to program design. So there's a couple of key factors here that we have to talk about in our answer. Number one, it gains a snapshot of the client's overall fitness and health level. So that's a really important thing to understand. Don't just assume that what their fitness level is. We actually want to get some results so that we can test and we can retest to show that they're improving. I think the biggest thing when training clients is showing them that they are improving, even if it's only a little improvement. So we need to get that snapshot first. If you don't get that snapshot first, then it's really hard to show that they are improving. The next one there is to understand your client's areas of strengths and weaknesses. Again, really important to understand, especially when we start training our clients, so that we know what they're good at, what they're not good at, and what they need to work on, because we want to obviously help them improve on areas that are weak. And without testing them, we might not know that area is weak. So that's why we want to test. It gives us a baseline score for each test to measure against in future testing. Again, kind of similar to the snapshot, guys. I can't stress it enough. It took me a long time to realize that how important testing was. And it's a way that you really retain clients as a trainer, because you just do testing with them. You show them that they're achieving their results, and then they want to stay and train more. Where if you don't test, then you're not showing them anything. They get bored, they get over it. They don't think that they're getting results, so then they leave. So that's why doing these tests actually shows them how much they are improving. Again, we can compare our clients to data of normal and baseline scores, so that the client knows, how well they're going. And again, this is a good reality check for a lot of people as well, because sometimes they think that they're okay. They know they're probably a little bit overweight and a little bit unhealthy, but they still think they're okay. But then when they do fitness testing, they realize, wow, how out of shape that they are, and how much and how far they've actually got to go to get back to being healthy again. So that's why we do fitness testing. And the last one, guys, to kind of really answer the question about how does it relate to program design, fitness testing, once you do fitness testing, your whole program is based around their results from their fitness test. So it really helps you piece together their exercise program for a client. So they're the key things you have to write about in your answer. You're not just going to copy and paste those dot points in, guys. You just need to kind of structure that in your own words and put it down. So that's that. And then I want to quickly, again, show you one more thing before we do jet off for today. And so in your classroom, we've got for task 4, you've got your task, but then you've got these fitness appraisals that we have to do. So this is what they look like. So if we can all open up the fitness appraisal number 1, and we'll just quickly go through this so you know what you have to do, and then you can kind of finish this off by yourselves, guys. So this is what you would have in front of you before you do a fitness test with a client, or fitness testing session with a client, to kind of go through it. So to start off, obviously it's really important to warm our clients up before we do any fitness testing with them. So you have to put down a general warm up. So for our general warm up, guys, let's just put like a 5-minute bike. We'll just get their general warm up moving and their blood pumping. So if you just put a 5-minute bike, that's more than enough for a general warm up. Next, you've got like mobility exercises, which is the next one here. So mobility is our stretching through movement. So mobility movements could be things like hammy rolls, where we're kind of rolling on our back, coming up, legs out straight, touching our toes, rolling back on our back, coming back out, touch it. Leg swings is stretching through movements. So that's mobility. Things like if you know your movements. There's one called thread the needle. So that's when we're on our hands and knees. We're kind of reaching underneath our body, and then we're kind of reaching up to the sky. So we call that thread the needle. That's another really good movement and stretching through movement. Calf pumps is another good one that we could put down there. Crucifix, where we're laying on our back and we're bringing one leg over and then the other leg over. That's for our lower back. It's another good stretching through movement. So you just got it. Mobility is stretching through movement. So we have to just put, say 5 mobility stretches there. And then range of movement, guys, is stuff like we can do range of movement. Like could just be some squats. It could be some stuff with some bands. And it's just getting our joints a bit under some tension, and getting them through their range. So, that could be, as I said, some squats, some lunges, some crab walks with some bands, some banded rows with a band. So it could be anything. It's just getting our joints through their range of movement and under a little bit of tension. So again, if we want to put down 5 range of movement exercises, we could put there. So you could put squats, you could put crab walks, you could put some push-ups, some lunges, and some banded rows could be your range of movement exercises. And then from there, guys, you move into what we call our functional movement or strength test. So what that is, we've got 6 prime movements. So we've got a squat, a lunge, a deadlift, a push-up, a sit-up, and a TRX row. And what we do with our clients is we make them do each one of these exercises for a minute, and then we write down how many reps they were able to achieve in that minute time frame. And then once we do that, we then comment on their, like if they had some poor technique, or if there was something that we need to indicate, so that when we write their program out, we're focusing on that. There's some space here to write some stuff down. Now, if they're say for their squats, absolutely perfect, nothing that needs to change, well, then you don't need to put any comments down, because the comments are only there for things that we've identified as, that's a weakness. We need to work on that. And so it's a bit of a way that you can keep notes on your client. So you would go through that. So in this scenario, guys, we've got to do this on our 3 clients. So we're going to do this on our athlete client, our older client, and our female client. But it's more you going through the process of filling this out. It's not, you don't actually physically have to go and do these tests with the client. We don't expect that. If you wanted to, go right ahead, then you're more than welcome to. But it's more that you start understanding that, like, which way to do. So if we're doing this, say on our athlete client as our client 1, you can just make up results. So think about yourself. Think about how many push-ups or how many squats do you reckon, or bodyweight squats I could do in a minute? How many bodyweight lunges could I do in a minute? How many like deadlifts with a 20 kilo bar could I do in a minute? And just put some scores down of some reps. And then, and if you think about it, like with a squat, you could probably do a squat every 2 seconds. So, if there's 60 seconds in a minute, around 30 squats is probably what most people can do, maybe a little bit more if you're pumping them out. So that's how you can work out the numbers game there. There's no right or wrong. It's just a benchmark. So next time you do it, you're like to your client, all right, last time we did 30 squats, let's try and get 35 squats out. And then if they get 35 squats out, then you've shown that they're improving. So that's that, guys. Does that make sense? Any questions on that functional movement strength test? No, we're all good. All right, then we've got what we call individual testing. So you've got the test that we've chosen is a 6-minute cycle test. So for distance, so you're on a bike, ride for 6 minutes and get their result. Then you've got your blood pressure, you've got your BMI, you've got your hip to waist ratio, you've got your skin folds. And we're just going to do that over 4 sites, guys. So skin folds, and then we've got a sit and reach. Now, I think it was in 1D or 1E, we spoke about like all these tests, and we showed you the benchmarking for them. We had tables. So if you just want to go back to those tables, you'll be able to see what good scores are, what poor scores are, and then you can just roughly guess what you think your client would get. Do you think that would be a good score, a poor score? And then here you just have to talk about what type of training do they have to do to improve on that next time. So again, just some rough notes. Doesn't have to be too detailed. It's just some rough stuff down here. Because if you're doing this in real life, and say you had 4 or 5 of these back to back, you probably forget what the first client did and how they did it. So just by putting some comments down, when you come back and read this, you know, the next day when you're trying to put a program together for a client, you've got some information to kind of go off. So that's for that. And you finish off by just, you know, a cool down with your client. You can't just let your client leave after a fitness test, some cool down. So just a general cool down. So again, we can chuck them on the bike, do something light as a general movement. And then we're just going to do some stretching that the stretchers are already put there for you. So that's all sweet. And to finish off, guys, just again, this is more of a compliance thing because, you know, in the syllabus, you've got to do screening and feedback of your clients. So it's just a really easy feedback form that you have to fill out on behalf of your client. And then you just either ticking yes or no for these questions. And then that's it, that's done. You've got to do that for all three of your clients. So your female client, your athlete client, and your older client. So that being said, is there any questions on that, guys? Are we all clear with that? Sweet.
Yeah.
All good. So just get those done, and then once you've done those, all three of them, then you can hand it in, and that will be task 4 finished. And don't spend too much time on it, guys. Just like quickly go through it. It's just more you going through the process. Where it's going to be more important is when we do our prac, you physically having to take people and show me that you can take people through those tests is what I have to see. You filling these forms out is just, again, it's just you going through the process. So I know that you're comfortable filling the forms out. So just go through them and don't spend too much time on them. All right. But outside that, guys, that's us. 10 o'clock. We're done. Hope you all have a good rest of the week and a good weekend. If you do have any questions, I'm more than happy to kind of jump on a call and have a chat to you about it. If you want to do some, need some more clarity with it all. But if you don't, I'll catch you next week. Sweet.